Hi, everyone. Lisa and Dan here from Fireside Strategic. We're on a mission to build a warmer, more human, and more profitable business world. In the Fireside Chat series, we're celebrating inspiring leaders who care both about the strategic and human side of building great organizations. Right now, we're chatting with Jonathan Rosen, founder of Collaberex. Jonathan, you've been a friend of ours for a while and a friend of some of the members of our community, but not everybody knows you. So first of all, thank you for joining us. And second of all, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and about Collaborex?
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. This is always fun. It's always, a pleasure talking to you and to, be part of your community. It's been great, getting to know you. So Collaborex is a company that I started 5 years ago, little more, 5.5 years ago. So I kind of view my company as a 5-year-old. It's kind of in kindergarten now, and kind of misbehaves sometimes, but it plays nice with others. So that's how you should view your business. Actually, 5 years is a key metric because the Small Business Administration says if you could pass the 5-year mark, your likelihood of surviving just exponentially increases. So any new business, go for that 5 years. Just stick it out for 5 years, no matter what. So that's what I've done. So I'm really proud of that. But I started this company mostly because as a result of prior experiences that I've had with both peer advisory groups and with business networking groups. And I found that so our groups are peer advisory business networking groups. So that's what they are. So there are peer advisory groups with a focus on business development, business networking. It's a focus on the goal is for people that come into our groups for them to grow their client base. So we try to do things in a way that is most effective, and where lessons learned from places that organizations that I've been part of in the past. So I really believe, and this is the reason I formed this company, that networking should be collaborative and supportive and honest, productive, aspirational, joyful, fun, interesting, learning from each other. But it should also be practical and targeted. So you should be in a group with other people who know the people you're looking to meet, not a random group of people, because that's what I thought networking was supposed to be about, to be with people who know the people you're looking to meet. And you should have people that lead the group who are responsible for everyone's success and are guides and help everyone achieve the goals that they want to achieve. My experiences with typical networking groups, traditional networking groups, is that they were random groups of people. They were inefficient. There was a lot of small talk. They were micromanaged.
Mm-hmm.
There were leaders and facilitators who led for their own best interest, not for the interest of the group. A lot of the groups were kind of a culture of, I would say, high quantity, low quality referrals based on peer pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing about our groups is people in our groups, they refer each other because they build relationships, and they literally become friends. So they refer each other because they want to, not because the rules of the group tell them that they have to. So that's kind of my mantra, and that's why I started it, and that's what we've been trying to form for the last 5 years. So we've survived so far.
Glad to hear it. And I think that's an exceptional mantra. I'm curious to dig a little bit more into finding leaders for these groups who can be selfless, who aren't just looking after their own interests. How do you find people like that? And how can you ensure that they stay that way?
So that was an issue because I've expanded. We have right now, in the last 5 years, we have 10 operating groups in the New York metro area that I facilitate myself. But we just launched 6 new groups in Philadelphia, 6 additional groups in New York, and 6 more in Boston are launching next week, first week of November. And so we need facilitators. I can't facilitate all the groups. So we're hiring facilitators to run those groups. And the kind of people that we have found are people that are in coaching practices, people have had former leadership skills and facilitation responsibilities, people that are, had worked for big corporations and had led teams. There were certain characteristics. People have to have a high emotional intelligence. They have to have, low ego. A great facilitator is someone that kind of works around the edges and knows the purpose of the group is for the members to get to know each other best, not for the members to turn to the facilitator. The facilitator doesn't have the answers. They ask the right questions. So it's not everyone this is right for. It's not someone that leads to be a leader. It's someone who leads for the best interest of the group. In fact, the groups that they lead it's not their group. It's the members group. And everything they do should be directed towards those members receiving maximum value and building the most relationships with the right people in their group.
I love that. I think it's such a smart way to find facilitators who are able to bring the best out of every group. I think that's wonderful. I am curious, how do you find the right types of members? How do you find these CEOs, these leaders that would have these qualities that you're looking for before they even get into the group where a facilitator can help massage the experience?
It's challenging. No, it is. It's as if I'm marketing towards a personality. So what happens is, which was unexpected and which was surprisingly unexpected, is that once you have your foundational group of members in a group, then it becomes very self-selecting, because people will come to a group, and if they feel they have a lot in common with the other members and they feel they get along and they feel they have some of those same characteristics, such as so one of the things that we do for all our members is we require that they sign a statement that say they agree to be committed to being responsible for each other's success. It's just a fancy way of saying you're in a group and everyone has your back. So if everyone's responsible for each other's success, they're going to be responsible for yours, and you will succeed too. And the group is only successful if everyone succeeds. So if in our meetings, someone isn't getting the values that they expected, it's the group's responsibility to make sure that they do so. But how do we find that? So after groups are formed, it kind of comes organically and naturally, because people come and either they like it or they don't. They feel an affinity to the other members or they don't. In the beginning, finding that foundational group of people is really me doing a lot of individual Zoom calls with people, and explaining what we're about and how we do things, and to see if it resonates, if our model resonates with them. One of the things that I warn them is that our groups don't seem like networking groups because we don't treat them as such. We put the right people in the room and then treat them as mastermind peer advisory groups. So oftentimes we'll get a guest to a group and you could see their face. They're like looking puzzled. They're thinking, did I click on the wrong link? I thought I was coming to a networking group. This doesn't seem like a networking group. He's showing a TED talk on like the science of happiness, or how to be a better communicator, or resilience, or working through adversity, things like that. And those are the things that help build relationships between the groups. So even in I'll tell you a quick, interesting story. When I first started, the initial meeting of a group used to be kind of a survey of who was there. What are your values? What do you expect? What are your expectations? What do you want from the group? What kinds of agendas do you like? And it was uninspiring.
Mm.
So instead, I said, you know what? We're just going to start off and we're just going to be ourselves. We're going to start off and just be who we are. So we start off with an interesting TED Talk. One that we do is on this one called, it's on science of happiness. And then we discuss how happiness increases brain productivity, things like that. And people come to it. If they resonate with it, they stay. And if they don't, they don't. And it's a better way to attract the kind of members that we're looking to attract.
It sounds like you're aligning people on the basis of shared values, right? When we can connect with people on the basis of principles that really matter to us and drive us, it's a very powerful way of connecting. So I love that. Curious to learn a little bit more, so you're obviously careful about finding people that this really resonates with and that have shared values. How do you determine who will work best in a group? Once they pass that test of this is a Collaberex person, I'm really curious how you go about the process of matching members together, as realizing, yeah, these are the people that are going to work best in a group. How do you do that?
Well, they match themselves. They match based on personalities. First of all of our agendas, no one is highlighted in our groups because everyone is highlighted at every single meeting because it's a group discussion. There's a lot of breakouts. There's watch a video, go to a breakout. We don't do elevator pitches because it drives me crazy. And I don't think they have much value. I think they're good for practicing your pitch and not much else. They don't help people build relationships. So we go into breakouts, you introduce yourself in breakouts, or we interview each other and then come back to the group and tell the group about the person you interviewed. But people match themselves based on, first of all, they're all the right people for each other because we segment the groups by target markets.
Mm-hmm.
So, an example is we have a business to business group that's for people that sell to companies that have revenues between 10 and 100 million in annual revenues within a certain geographic area. So you have non-competing professionals in that group. And so you have marketing people and accountants and insurance people and executive coaches and things like that. And people naturally see who their best referral partners are, but they get to know each other so well from this kind of intimate experience that they all go from being able to help each other to they can't help but help each other. And it brings such value. I mean, one of the things that we do, since we're all about helping each other, is we give a free seat to a nonprofit in each of our groups. So a small local nonprofit joined that group, and immediately, I mean, half the group was doing pro bono work for that nonprofit because they got to know her and her mission and what they're doing, and their skill sets were a great value to her. So.
It's what I love about the way you're thinking about this is that an elevator pitch can lead us sometimes to ignore the person behind the business. An elevator pitch is this very quick, simplistic take on what someone does. It's a little mini advertisement, but it can be, people spend so much time thinking about it that they lose track of their own humanity. They lose track of the fact that businesses are just made up of people in the end. And if people can find other awesome people to connect with, then you just create this awesome virtuous circle of caring, and you're building a business world that is fueled by that caring. And it sounds like it's growing organically.
It is. So in the old days when we used to meet for coffee with people in person, remember that? I think I remember.
Oh yeah,
that.
maybe. It was a while ago.
Right, in like coffee shops, and they're kind of cool. And so in the old days, you'd go meet someone for coffee, and let's say you met for an hour and then you walked out and it was done, and you think to yourself, oh, was that a good meeting? And you don't think, oh, that was a great meeting. I got all my talking points across. you think that was a great meeting. I really hit it off with that person. I really got to know them personally. And that's when people will care about you, have to know about you personally first, and then they'll care about you professionally. Then they'll ask about what you do. They'll want to help you. So an example that I use, and I don't mean to make fun of accountants, if there are any accountants out there, but when an accountant used to stand up in one of my groups, or say in one of my groups, you say, what do you do? And they say, I do financial statements and tax returns. I never, ever heard anyone say, that is so cool. They go, oh, yeah, okay. But when that accountant says, this quarantine and being at home and working from home and my family's around and I have kids and I have 3 dogs and a cat and it's challenging and I just wish we didn't have to cancel our vacation and there's this restaurant that I love, then everyone realizes that they have those things in common with that person. And then they'll say to that person, they'll say, oh, and what do you do for a living? So that's, yeah.
That's hilarious. And it sounds like you've really got it figured out. Kind of humans first, relationship first. Oh, also, what do you do? And that's such a more effective way to really forge bonds that eventually help grow the businesses. It's fantastic.
Yes, right. It's all about getting to know each other personally first and then professionally. Relationships are just relationships.
Yeah, it's true. I love it. There's such an important tie-in between the personal and the professional. And I think we sometimes like to think of them as 2 separate silos, but I don't think that's actually true. It's still one human who's doing these things. And
it's
you really
true, even in
that to life. Please.
Right. Even in the biggest corporations and people that are calling on, Fortune 500 companies, they're forging relationships with individuals of those companies, so those people trust them to execute on whatever their competencies are.
I once heard an expression, and I forgot who's the original author of this, that there's really no such thing as B2B sales. Everything is a B2C sale. It's just that C may be inside of a B.
Yes, that's a really good point. That is so true.
Very cool.
Sometimes I feel fortunate and a little amazed that I actually have created a business that's based on relationships and groups working together and these, interpersonal relationships that lead to such individual success.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Something that I'm very curious about, you mentioned that, back in the day, we used to have coffees and connect. And now, we're about half a year into this global pandemic, and you're saying that you're launching a bunch more groups in other cities. So you've clearly done a wonderful job transcending the challenges of COVID-19. But I would love it if you could walk us through a little bit the changes that happened over the last few months, how you had to take things online, and now, lo and behold, you're expanding.
So I was working on, since I started the business, any startup should want to get to the point where in their mind they've so-called proved the concept. So this is the model. It doesn't mean it's not going to change or pivot or change to the marketplace in any way. So I'd gotten to that point after, about 3 years. I felt that it was substantially enough. I had enough customers. People were renewing. There were certain metrics that I was looking at to give me confidence that I'd proved it. So I was thinking of, well, how can I scale the business? And I was trying to develop kind of a licensing model. And a lot of people were saying to me at that time, Jonathan, this is great. If you want to scale the business, it should be virtual. There's this thing called Zoom and you could do video conferencing. And I would just say, no, thank you. I like being in conference rooms, and the quality of the relationships when people are in the same room is so much better. And I said, let someone else do that. I'm not interested. And then COVID hit. And then we switched all our meetings from meeting in person to meeting via Zoom. And we started that right in the beginning of March. And by mid-April, since we were forced into it and we did whatever we could to try and make our Zoom meetings as personal and impactful and productive as the ones in conference rooms by using breakouts and showing TED Talks and doing all kinds of things, using all the tools available. After about a month, I thought to myself, this isn't terrible. I can do this. This is okay. This works. And it was from that, starting maybe only about a month after COVID, maybe end of April, that I started working on a kind of a go-to-market strategy for scaling to other territories. And thinking, well, we can do this. And the first ones that we launched were in Philadelphia in August. And I went through the process of finding facilitators that had our same values and marketing to that market. And then we've gone on to New York and we're going on to Boston. So there's really no limit. And we find that people are, used to this method of communication. And a lot of people like it more because it's not taking up half their day by taking the train into, a metropolitan area or taking a subway or public transportation and getting to a conference room and waiting on a security line at a high rise and all that. They can get much more done and really get the value, still develop those relationships. So it's worked, and we're continuing as all businesses to learn from what we do and try and do things better and more efficiently and bring more value.
Very cool. Very cool. Congratulations on that success. That's wonderful to hear. Curious to learn a little bit more about what challenges there are to overcome next. You've been able to expand in the middle of this pandemic, which is phenomenal. What's next for Collaberex? What do you feel are sort of the chief challenges on your agenda to overcome?
Well, as we grow, it's with any company that grows, is maintaining the value and the quality of the product or service that you're providing, making sure that the facilitators are, it's like if it was a yoga studio that's a franchise. You want to make sure that everything is kind of the same vibe in all the studios. The instructors might be different, but it's still the same theme and the same values that you're bringing to those people. So I kind of look at it the same way. So it's really maintaining that consistency and our brand and making sure it represents relationships and accountability and support. And our group should be a sanctuary in dense urban environments that are extremely competitive. Have a group that is your sales funnel because you've built these relationships with them. So it's maintaining that. It's managing a larger organization. It's me doing that while continuing to facilitate the groups that I want to facilitate because honestly, that's the fun part. And so it's maintaining that balance. And then as things come out of COVID, and let's say the whole world is vaccinated and we're all more comfortable, figuring out exactly what the hybrid model might be, where some people might want to go back to in-person and some people might not. Right now, with the groups that we're have expanded to in these other cities, they're twice-a-month meetings, and our plan is not to go back to in-person meetings at all, but instead to just schedule quarterly socials within those metropolitan areas where all the groups would come together for some kind of social event 4 times a year. So that's our plan for now, and who knows? You have to listen to the market. Whatever our members want, that's what we'll do.
I love that. Sounds like a lot. And there's definitely a lot of uncertainty. And I love that you're being flexible and going with it. Something that really stuck out to me when you were just speaking is that you called the groups both a sanctuary as well as a sales funnel. And I think that's fantastic. There aren't many things in the world that are both a sanctuary and a sales funnel. And the way that you've been able to bring those two together is very beautiful. It's an incredible alignment of, financial incentives with kind of the human, social, mushy, squishy good stuff that we really need in order to thrive. That's something that Dan and I really care about at Fireside Strategic, and I think it's very important in this kind of COVID and post-COVID world to remember that you could do business and have it be in a sanctuary.
So one of the things that one of the agendas that we do is defining our why, defining what our core beliefs are and what drives us, and not how we do and what we do, but why we do it and what gets us up in the morning and what inspires us. And so I've always given a lot of thought to what my why is, and one of the ways to determine one's why is to look back on your life and say, well, what times in your life have you been most joyful or most comfortable, you felt most kind of in the zone, or just yourself? And it's always been times where I've been parts of groups. I love being on teams. I love being in student activity clubs and study groups. It was always groups. It wasn't, I would so prefer to be in a group than be in a cubicle in the basement of the library studying. I'd rather be with other people and defining kind of common goals and how we can help each other. And so that's how I look at these I was going to say groups, but I tell them, you're really not a group, you're a team. We're all here to work together. And to be that sanctuary in that supportive environment where you know that these people have your back and they're going to help you accomplish your goals. And a lot of your goals are financial or practical, or, we have to make a living and pay the rent and want to pay for our vacation. So, yeah.
Makes perfect sense. You're just now you're getting paid to do what you always naturally were doing before, right? Which is an absolutely perfect way to start a business. As we start to come towards the end of our time together, Jonathan, one of the questions we love to ask people is, what do you do for fun? So when you're not Collaberexing, what's fun for John?
So I like anything outdoors. I'm a big tennis player. But I don't play singles, I play doubles because I like teams. I like collaboration. I like the social it's similar to the groups. One of the reasons I like tennis is because I love the social aspect of it, the sanctuary, the compatibility, but I also love kind of the practical aspect of it, is that you get some really good exercise within a relatively short period of time. And so it's the combination of those things. Travel, eating. I wish some of my favorite restaurants were open. I can't wait to reschedule vacations, spend time with my family, everything. So those are the things that I love to do. And but the things that I do at work, I'm really fortunate that I'm doing something that I truly love and believe in, and I hope it comes across to my members. I'm always, just be yourself, and that's what I encourage everyone to do. That's everyone's unique selling proposition, themselves. Be yourself. So.
A beautiful, beautiful note to end on, and I'm very, very confident that came across in this conversation. So also very confident that it comes across to your members too. Thank you so much for being with us today, Jonathan. Really, really enjoyed the time together, learned a ton, and appreciate you and your work so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This is great. This is just a wonderful conversation. Thanks for having me.